All right, today we're going to tackle a logo design project in Canva. We already developed our mood board, and we also were able to go to color.adobe.com and be able to pull some of those colors out. So we have our color palette developed. Now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and get our colors loaded. And I just opened up a logo project on the Canva homepage. I think this is just a typical 500 by 500 pixel square, but any kind of square shape or any blank canvas will do for logo design. So I went ahead and have my 2 lines of copy that I'm going to have in my logo, and I have my main Get It Girls, the company name, and marketing and branding is kind of my byline, my slogan, something that's going to be much smaller. So now I'm going to bring in my color palette. So I'm just going to go to the shapes, and I'm going to bring in a couple of circles. And this is where we're going to be able to kind of bring our palette in here. So I'm going to go ahead and do, I believe we have 5 colors, so I'm just going to make 5 circles. And this is where we're going to be able to sample and bring in those color swatches. And so what you can do is each circle will change to a different color in your color palette. You can type in, this is called a hex code, color code, and to be able to find that, you just go back into your color or any other website that does this. This is just one I'm familiar with, color.adobe.com. So we have our template already pulled up. These are the colors we want to use. And I'm just going to go to each one, and I'm just going to copy and paste the number into the swatches. It's going to let me copy. So I'm just going to click on each one and do this process until we have all the colors loaded in. So I have most of my colors loaded in. I have one more to do. So I'm going to show you how to do this one more time. I'm going to copy and go up here and go to this addition and add it. And so you can see how our color palette has been added to our document colors, but we also have these 5 different shape circles that we can recall as well for our palette. So that's how we can bring it into Canva. So let's go ahead and get started with kind of your basic logo design. I'm going to do something pretty simple. I'm going to make sure this is a little bit bigger. That's our company name. So let's make that not quite that big. Let's draw this text box out a little bit, and let's make this much smaller. And I want to do all caps, and I want to add a little spacing, a little breathing room between the characters. And I might be able to afford going bolder with that. And now we're going to play around with some font pairing. That's probably going to be the biggest way we can get our logo changed. I really like kind of how this aligns with this right here. Let me put a little more spacing, or make this ever so slightly bigger. Let me go back to, let me change the spacing so that the left and right sides are flush with each other. This is kind of aligned this way. And get a little more exact. Like spacing, doing some adjustments. Perfect. That's kind of our basic layout for our logo. I want to kind of do something a little different. I want to make this it. I want to highlight it just to kind of break up this big block of text. So I'm going to actually delete the it and put a little more spacing here. And I'm actually going to create a new text box using the same font and put it. So now I have these 2 different text boxes I can play around with. And I'm actually going to make this a little bit smaller. Let's make it 32. And I want to make that italics, but this particular font type does not have italics. So let's see if we can find one that's a close match. Maybe this one has italics. Not all of them come with italicizing options. So it's good to have some fonts on hand that you know have a variety of weights so you don't run into that issue. I know Bondini does. I've used that a lot. I believe that does have an italic option. There we go. So see how that's already kind of breaks up this text with this text, kind of shakes it up a little bit. So I want to add a little circle. So I'm just going to copy and paste this circle. I'm going to put my it inside the circle. Make this a little smaller. Bring this up a little bit, and I'm going to make this white. Or actually I can use my little dark or light gray color from my palette that we developed. See, that looks really nice, much better than a sharp white. It's kind of a nice softer look. So let me kind of zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so we can play with fonts a little bit. I really like this font set already. Let's see. Let's play with a font. I'm not a big fan of that sans serif. So let's play around with some other sans serif types to see if we could find a good match. That has too much little details in it. I want something very simple. I might just stick with Railway. I use that all the time, but it's a very versatile font. So let me go to R. Railway. Let me see how Railway thin. And when you're doing a logo, you don't want to go too thin. It looks great really close up. I love that. But when you zoom out and you put it on a small letterhead or a digital campaign, it's too thin. So I'm going to need to make sure that's bolded. Let me just grab Railway regular. I wish they had a search option here so I don't have to sit there and hunt for it. So maybe they'll add that in the future. There we go. Let me unbold that. There we go. Perfect. So I think another way to soften this a little bit, and let me reduce the spacing just a hair. Oops, sorry, wrong one. There we go. And another way to soften this a little bit, because this black is really harsh, is let's incorporate some of these colors. Let me play around real quickly. See, let's keep selecting that it. Let me arrange that, send it backward, so it'll allow me to select this block right here. So let's play around with a few options for our main font. And I may need to do another serif font. That's clean. That could be kind of cool. But I think I like the serif. Let's go to B. Let's go back to Bondini. Is that bold enough? That might not be bold enough. So let's go back to what we had. We can always do another option a little bit later. Make sure it all is lining up. Let's soften this marketing and branding. Let's do a different color. Let's go to our color palette and let's just start applying some colors that we think will really help soften everything. And what could work is I have two different levels of purple, which work really nicely together. One's lighter, one's darker. And you are not stuck with these colors. We had true inspiration for these colors via a mood board, but that doesn't mean we're stuck. If a color doesn't work, you could try other things out. Like I think a darker gray might actually work better for that. So I wonder if we can go back to that gold. You know, that could work. I'm still not sold on this font. So let me play around with some different font options.